A UK emergency alert. Well, this is something we're looking forward to this afternoon. Um, in principle, there might be very, very, very rare occasions when some sort of message would be useful, but this would depend on the government being honest and not trying to frighten us. And the answer, and unfortunately, the problem is they do want to frighten us, and they're not honest. So therefore, this type of technology is going to be misused. In fact, this is an example of misusing it. It's like the fire alarms in the supermarket. When people hear it, they automatically assume, almost always correctly, that it's just a test. And therefore, if there was a genuine emergency, I mean, for example, let's suppose the Russians wanted to fire a missile at the UK, um, and the missile would land at 3:15. I mean, the Russians aren't going to do that, but you know, they're the latest people we're supposed to blame for everything. So if the Russians did want to do that, then this alarm would go off. But if people didn't realise it was just a false alarm, you see, they think it was a false alarm. So the problem with these false alarms is that if there was a genuine emergency, then nobody would pay attention to it because people would be assuming it's just yet another false alarm. But it's pretty obvious to me, at least, that the government want us to be scared. I mean, whether it's climate change or terrorism or viruses or wars, most of which we created because, in my strong view, the Ukraine war was started by NATO, not by Russia. It was NATO started it. We actually overthrew the elected government of Ukraine in order to put in some Western puppets. And in order to sweeten the pill for Ukrainian public, the ones who lived in the north and west of Ukraine, we, we you know, we offer, we try to dangle the carrot of free movement because a lot of Ukrainians would like to come and live in Western countries. In fact, Ukrainian army is really suffering from a manpower shortage because they can't find young Ukrainians don't want to stay in Ukraine and fight Russia, not quite understandably, when they've got the option to go and live in the West and get. I mean, what would you rather do? Would you rather fight the Red Army or would you rather fight Wagner? I mean, nothing's really happening. I mean, they've been in Bakhmut now for months and the front line has moved like 100 metres. It's a bloody joke. I've been looking at the same maps of Bakhmut for the last 2 months. And so it could be that to a large extent this war is a wag the dog scenario. Um, I don't, Putin by, seems a big improvement over our own leaders because he can string a sentence together and seems to want to protect the Russian people, something that our governments don't want to do. I mean, I find it quite extraordinary that we attack Russia for the, we want to defend Ukraine's borders, but our leaders in Britain and America, for example, have no intention of protecting our borders. I want the borders of Britain to be defended. I don't want people arriving illegally from Calais under any circumstances. And I believe it will be completely correct to intercept these boats and, if necessary, to blow them out of the water because it's an invasion. And my guess is because, I mean, when was the last time you saw a white security guard or an English security guard? There aren't any. So I think that these young men from various countries have been brought here to be soldiers for the United Nations. I mean, in my opinion, it's all already too late. I mean, people such as Enoch Powell tried to warn us in the 60s. He could see the direction of society. And instead of dealing logically and intelligently with his, because every country, you know, in South Africa, for example, a lot of black South Africans are indignant because of immigration from neighbouring countries in Africa, which have less developed economies, such as Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and so on. There's a lot of, I mean, these are black people, black people who don't want other black people moving in. And yet when it comes to white people seem to have to take on the burden of other people, right? So You do not need to take any action. I mean, I don't believe lasting for about 10 seconds, and it says here from 3 p.m. What mean from 3 p.m.? Does that mean at 3 p.m.? I mean, you can imagine. I don't know what the radiation is, but when you consider how during the lockdown they put up all these 5G towers all over the place, does this mean that how much power would it be needed? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm no expert on telecom, but surely having 100 million cell phone devices going off at the same time, this could perhaps create some kind of, would is this going to affect people who've had vaccinations, some of which contain graphene? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we are electronic, aren't we? We are electric beings, and apparently we have an aura. I mean, we give off. It's beyond. We can't see it, but it's there. So I would have thought all this radiation might be harmful. Now it may be, and it's been, many times in the past, people such as myself have, and I really hope I'm wrong. I mean, I don't want to be right, believe me, but of course, it could be that this is planting some spyware on your phone, or it might be interfering with your phone. Um, um, you know, it might be retrieving data from your phone. I really don't know. I mean, most of us, we don't have much privacy anymore because when we go out, there's cameras everywhere. Our shopping habits attract um, so many different people know all about us. Um, it's not difficult to track someone. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and I mean, so what will the message say? A new UK government says it will warn you if there's a life threatening. You see, it would be nice if you could opt out of this at your own risk, right? I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, obviously, what they could do is that they could actually do something real and then blame the people who opted out for not paying attention, right? Because false flags are just as common as hoaxes, and they overlap because the thing is, both hoaxes and false flags are government action. So sometimes the government pretends something's happened and it never did, and sometimes the government do something such as terrorism and blame their enemy. So it looks to me as if at some point they're going to create some terrorism in the UK and claim Putin did it or something, or they're going to have some CCTV of a guy matching Putin's description sneaking out of a kindergarten or something, in a stripy shirt with a bag marked swag over his back. This is it. Um, so all 4G and 5G phone networks, right? Now the thing is, I think in a way this is a breach of our contract with the phone companies. Hold on, let me have a coffee. Okay, which devices will receive the alerts? Okay, I've got an old version of Android, so hopefully this won't apply to me. But I'll take the precaution. I'll take some additional precautions, which I'm not going to tell you about. But you can find lots of advice online. Um, uh, the alert will sound on phones in silent mode. Well, I don't think that's fair because you might have good reason to put your phone on silent mode. There are other, for example, you might be doing whatever, and the government are going to override. I mean, presumably, you, it would, but it might. Would it work? Would it? Sorry. Would it sound on the when it's on airplane mode? It says the government says emergency service will have other ways to notify those without a compatible device. So what are they going to do? Send a carrier pigeon? It says here, despite the government recommending users can opt out and turning off severe alerts or extreme alerts. And this is the 5G shit that is propping up everywhere. This is very, very expensive equipment, and it was installed as a priority during lockdown when we were all told to stop everything non-essential and stay at home. So while you were cowering beneath your sofa watching the TV propaganda, there were guys out there who were ignoring the injunction to stay at home, putting up these ugly and sinister looking things. This is very advanced technology, right? And it, you know, and there actually a lot of this stuff is going on top of council flats and public libraries and near schools and stuff where the local public don't have much clout, right? I don't want this stuff anywhere near me, and I'm perfectly satisfied with 4G. 4G is a good compromise between, for almost all of us, 4G gives us all we need, right? We don't need 5G. 5G is a step too far, right? It's a bit like how many pints of beer do you want? Do you want would you want to drink 4 pints of beer at the pub, or do you want to have 20 pints of beer? 20 pints of beer is too much. 4 pints will get you nice and merry, but you'll still be able to make it home, right? There's always got to be a limit to this type of stuff. And, you know, the idea that we need 4G, 5G is a nonsense, because almost everyone who is interested in broadband and downloading movies and playing games doesn't play it in the street. No one goes to the local lamppost and watches a movie or plays video games. People play from home, where the people have got their own high-speed broadband. So in my opinion, 5G doesn't make any sense at all, but they're trying to have the Internet of Things. We've got to stop technology completely taking over our lives. I want to hang out with real people. I want to do real things with real people. I want to play chess with a real people, and I want to date real women in person, right? That's what I want to do. I'm not saying I'm doing it, but I want to do that. And wouldn't you prefer to do that? I mean, you can play games now, virtual games, you know, you can, anyway. Drivers also advised not to look or touch their phone until it's safe to do so. So, I mean, basically, the whole country is going to have to come to a grinding halt at 3 o'clock so people can deal with this. Because I wouldn't want a high-speed siren in my car at 3 p.m. if I'm on the motorway. I might be about to turn right. You know, there might be an emergency in front of you which you've got to deal with in a millionth of a second. And at that very second, this damn alert comes on. Emergency alerts with advice on how to stay safe. Again, stay safe. The government always trying to pretend that they want you to stay safe, but they're trying to wipe us out. They want less people, right? They're increasing the age you get a pension while simultaneously removing years of your life. Initially focus on the most serious weather-related events, severe flooding. Well, flooding, it doesn't come instantly. Most people get warning of it because the bloody water levels keep going up. But many people will not receive alerts for months. Look at this. There are more fucking rescuers than rescued here. Look, there's... I mean, look how deep this water is. It's not even coming up to their knees. Wouldn't it be easy for these fucking people just to bloody walk? Fucking hell, honestly, what a load of bollocks. Many countries use the emergency system. Yeah, it says here, it does not always go to plan, or maybe it does go to plan. In 2018, the US state of Hawaii, an alert warning was set there, causing widespread panic. It's a bit like the War of the Worlds with Orson Welles. The public have an inexhaustible ability to be daft. They may not know. There might be people out there who are living in a cabin or something who haven't even heard about this, right? They might be given an awful shock. So anyway, I think it's unnecessary. I think it's part of a plan to frighten people non-stop. I'm going to be opting out of all this. The government have a role to play in our lives, I don't deny it, but they're handling things very badly at the moment. Thank you for your time.